Hi and welcome to Game Creation, and this week we are trying to improve the dialog box, and in this episode what we're going to be doing is having a little prompt to say to users that there is more dialogue to come. So typically it includes the button to press to go on to the next bit. Tomorrow's episode, what we're going to be doing is figuring out what button is useful for the user to select. So are they using a controller or are they using the keyboard? And the buttons will change depending on what they're using. So it's going to be quite a big and probably quite a useful episode tomorrow as well. So let's get started. So this is our project so far, and you can see that the dialog box comes up nicely, but there's no real prompt at the end of it, and we probably could speed that up. In fact, let's go and do that now, because that's quite slow. So I'm just going to make it maybe 2 bits of a second. Maybe even let's go in so far to make it 1, so make it come up super fast. Alright, that looks good. Okay, so we want a press shift to continue prompt to come up at the end of the text scrolling. So let's think about how we're going to do that. Well, this is the dialog box area here, and you can see pressing shift moves it on to the next one. At the moment we've kind of hard coded it to only show 2. So for instance, if I run the application now, if I press shift, it will just keep loading the second one, but that's okay because we're not looking at that in this episode, or probably this week. I think that will probably be a bigger thing to look into later on. Okay, so we first of all want to create a string. I'm not going to add it on to the end of this one because I might want to make the string look different. I might want to pick a different font for it. So I'm going to add another string. And that string is going to say press shift to continue. There we go. Okay, there we go. And so what I want to do is I want that to show up when the text has finished scrolling. So all I need to do here is drag that condition there, double click on it and say, well, when it's equal, remember we've got string 2 is off the camera, and that's the desired text. String 1 is the one that you see on the screen, and string 1 will keep going on until it looks the same as string 2. When it looks the same as string 2, it means it's fully loaded, it's fully done. And we want that to say, well, when it's fully done and fully loaded, then we want to change the position, and I want that to show up probably at the bottom right of that one. Now, this is going to be difficult to do perfectly first time, so probably about there. And what I've done is I've clicked on the string that's shown, and I've said, well, wherever that string is, I want it to be there in relation to it. And remember, this string doesn't get wider or thinner, and this string here always stays the same width, so it'll always be about there. And this is kind of where we can use a bit of trial and error. So run the application, so it's loading, scrolling, and there we are, press shift to continue. Now, one thing we haven't done is we haven't made the font size and all that stuff the same. Now, there's a couple of ways you could do this. Probably the best way is always making it the same as the visible font. So we'll go into text, font size, and I'm going to nick the font size from this. Do I want to resize the object? I think I do, yeah. The reason for doing this is I don't want to have to, for now, I don't want to have to format string 3 different to string 1, to the visible string on the screen. I might want to change the font and stuff individually, but at the moment I just want to keep everything the same. So if I run the application now, there we are, and it will just keep the same font. And looking at that, I've positioned that pretty nicely. Now remember, when we're doing this the first time around, we're not really that fussed about the way it looks. We can format it later on. As long as it works, we're happy. Now obviously I've got to make sure this string here isn't covering that bit there. And I might want to have a box around that and make it look nicer later on. But now the user press shift to continue, but the problem is it's still there. So what we need to do is we need to do the inverse of that and just drag this to a new condition. I might put that together with the other one and say position, select position, and I'll just put it off screen. And because it's a text, I'll probably put it up here so that I can add more to it and it won't reveal itself on the frame. And that's just saying, right, get out of the way when you're finished. Let's have a look. So it's loaded nicely, press shift, disappears, comes back. Shift again, disappears, comes back. And I might consider moving it a bit more to the right, but I don't know how long this string's going to be, because I might change that to have a bracket around shift, or the font I use for that might be a wider font. So we don't know, but that's why we don't spend ages on it, because we know we'll probably change it later on. And that's perfect, that's exactly what I wanted. So it doesn't show up and only shows up when the string's finished. And I don't want this. The reason also that I don't want to include it in that string is I don't want it to just to come at a letter at a time. It's an instruction. It's saying, by the way, press shift to continue. So it's an instruction, it's not narrative. Narrative normally comes up a letter at a time because you're kind of revealing different bits of it at different times. With this, it's just one instruction, so this comes up all at the same time. And something else we might add to it is blinking effects. So sometimes this will be blinking to say, look, this is important, have a look at this. It might be a different color as well, but we're not going to do any of that today. So tomorrow we're going to endeavor to figure out what controller the person's using, whether it's the keyboard or the Xbox One or Xbox controller. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to see more from us, please click subscribe. We release videos every single weekday at 7 PM UK time. Thank you.